I would like to introduce this workshop that we're happy to bring back. During this really challenging year with all these twists and turns, we have been really thinking about the experience of our 2020 grads and really wanted to put forward some information that we've done before for our larger alumni community. This webinar specifically we did, I believe, back in April, but it's one of our much requested, and for me personally, there's never a bad time to look at your resume, never a bad time to look and bolster the way that we're presenting ourselves for our career opportunities. So we've partnered with our Career Center team. We have with us Andy Chau. Thanks for coming for us, Andy, and sharing your expertise with us. We're really happy to be representing this. And if there's anything else that y'all are wanting to see as alumni in the community, as folks who are going through this year, if there's anything that's helpful to your experience, please feel free to reach out to us. You can email me directly, dmjames@berkeley.edu, and we can chat. Without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Andy Chau.
Thank you, Donna, and hello, everyone. I'm sorry that my camera is not working today. I think it's the GoToWebinar app, but again, I'm the Associate Director of Career Services here at the Berkeley Career Center, and this is my contact info, our website, as well as our social media channels. We do post opportunities quite often on our social media channels, so if you are savvy with Instagram or Facebook, please like us and follow us. So a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about a quick overview about what Alumni Career Services you have. And I'm just going to fly through a couple of resources and things that you can take advantage of as an alum. And then I'm going to talk to you about resumes and cover letters. Now, obviously, everyone has to have their own personalized resume, but this is just, as far as best practices that we've kind of benchmarked, and also working with alumni like you, we've used a lot of different resume templates that we've kind of talk to our students about, and all of them are from real alumni. So all these techniques and skills that we're going to be talking about today are obviously you would take them with your own personal spin as you create your own materials. And again, if you have questions during this, please feel free to submit them. Donna is watching them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as we move forward. So just a quick reminder, as an alum, not only do you receive, events and presentations like this from us, but we also have one-on-one advising. So maybe this is you're a new alum and you would like to meet with an advisor for just kind of talk about what are next steps, what to do during a pandemic and getting your materials, or maybe submitting materials for a job search. We also have a lot of different resources. We have resources on our website and in the Berkeley Career Manager, which I'll talk to you a little bit about soon. But our resources do range from a resume guide, a cover letter guide, which I will send also to Donna, and she can send those materials to you after this presentation. But basically, those are summarized guides with examples of those resumes and cover letters so that you can create your own. Connections, we love connecting our alumni with current students and vice versa. So if you want to get involved, please reach out to Alumni Affairs, and if you're a supervisor or working at a company that's looking for interns, please connect with us, connect with the Career Center. We are always trying to get our students to work with alumni that are in the industry, and that's the best mentorship that can arise. So please feel free to reach out to us if you're hiring. And of course, if you're looking for a new experience, new opportunity, gigs, jobs, what have you, they're all going to be located in our Berkeley Career Manager. We are seeing, upticks of employers asking for either seasoned alumni or recent alum to fill some full-time and part-time positions. So great resource there. So as far as our services and platforms, the Berkeley Career Manager is where you'll find the opportunities if you are looking for them, as well as advising. With the Berkeley Career Manager, if you don't have an alumni account, that is something that you'll have to do first to receive the Berkeley Career Manager access. So make sure that you do that through Alumni Affairs on their website, or again, reaching out to Donna as well. And Berkeley Connect. So Berkeley Connect is one of our newer platforms where you can connect with our students or connect with other alum. And this is a personal service that's through Berkeley itself. and I will show you a little bit of that as well. So you're probably wondering, as far as what can I talk to a career advisor about at the Career Center as an alum? Obviously, we're talking about resumes and cover letters today. After this presentation, if you would love to see someone have someone edit it for you, a good thing you could do is make an appointment. And what we could do with that is edit it and then also help you find maybe the right job opportunities to apply for, or maybe critiquing your resume and cover letter to match the job that you want to apply for. Then there's also jobs, internships, LinkedIn, website development is something we have a partnership with a company called Wix, which I'll talk about as well. Skill development if you're looking to do that. Grad school if you're deciding to go to school right after graduating here at Berkeley, or deciding to go back to school. We have worked with plenty of alumni as far as working on those applications and much more. So I think the main thing here is the 30-minute appointment is all yours. You drive the agenda, and we're just here to help you. So continuing with the presentation here, we're going to talk about Berkeley Connect real quickly. This is obviously a directory that's for you to explore different say you just moved to a different location or city and you're looking for other alumni. This is something that you can build out your own profile. So getting access to this through the Alumni Affairs Office, you can edit that and connect with other folks, especially students. We also have a partnership with Wix, like I mentioned before. If you are looking to create a website, you can receive a 50% off discount for Berkeley. It's for Berkeley students and alumni. So feel free to visit this website, berkeley.wix.com, and request a promo code, and we will give that for you, do that for you as well. So the main topic today is resumes and cover letters. And why do these documents matter? A lot of the time, when we're applying for jobs, we try to just make one template and send it to a variety of different employers. And I think one thing we have to start doing is to make sure that our resumes and cover letters are up to date for every single job, because the best way for you to get an interview, for you to get, for an employer to be interested, is for you to cater your materials to that company. So making sure that your documents are similar, right? You don't want the styles to be different. You want to make sure they're clean, organized, and they're concise so employers can read them quickly. A lot of employers can look at a resume and cover letter and get a first impression of you if it's not organized, if it's typos, misspellings. So making sure that all of these aspects of your materials are clean and edited every single time will hopefully give you a better success rate as far as getting your first interview. And 99% of jobs, I mean, this is an estimate, but most of the time, job applications will require you to have a resume and cover letter before you can meet a person. Just a little data here as far as the employer, what employers are looking for. So what employers want to see as far as your materials? They want to see all, these are just based off of the 2018 report from NACE. I'm sure as of today, these have changed a little bit, but a lot of these skills are something that I would say most Berkeley students do have and alumni. So thinking about, how can you convey all of these different attributes in your resume, whether it be leadership, any opportunities that you had in that initiative, entrepreneurial skills are huge, even fluency in a foreign language. So employers are seeing these things, and these do pop out to employers. So making sure your materials include these is crucial. And then also, what do employers actually value? Okay, so obviously, the school you attended, have you had any experience at all? Have you completed an internship? Maybe you're a recent grad and you're looking for that first entry-level position. Have you studied abroad? So these are all different things that employers are value most. And as we talk about resumes, just to kind of differentiate between a few things here. So what's the difference between a resume and a CV? So resumes, typically, I would say the easiest way to say it is more on the business side of things. So music business related, any kind of business, any administrative positions, even if you're a sound designer, what have you. So resumes are short, concise documents that show off your skills and your experience, whereas a CV is a little more extensive. So CVs are more popular in different countries, but in the US, they're very much used for professor positions, teaching positions, any educational. So if you are a teacher looking for a college position, CVs will probably be requested, and we have templates for both of these, for resumes and CVs. So and I will make sure that you get the links to those as well. But CV is not something that you'll probably submit to a producer or submit to Apple Music. You're likely to send more a resume. And then obviously for the performers here today, there's always a difference between a business and a performance resume, and you may have a combination of both. So some examples of that, if you are 80% a performer, maybe 20% teacher, you're gonna have a little bit of your performance experience on your business resume, right? You want to show that you're an active performer, and maybe show that either you're part of an orchestra, or you're part of a band, or you may be a songwriter, singer-songwriter that's also performing and gigging. So you may have a combination of both, but sometimes it's just completely different. And a performance resume will only include all the different kinds of gigs that you want to show off, and different skills with that. And then your business resume will be your experience. Maybe you're a teacher, or you have worked at a studio before, but also perform. You'll stick more on the business side and talk about your experience and show off your skills more on that side. And some tips to keep your application out of the trash. A lot of people these days, as far as attention spans, I'll speak for myself. It's a 5-second rule. When I look at something and I lose attention, you want to make sure that your resume is easy to read, right? It has to be concise. So formatting does really matter. Are you making your points quickly? Are you writing paragraphs to explain what your previous experience was? And you also don't want your employer to guess. So being very specific in your resume about what you've done and what you did is going to help you put your best self forward. You have to be honest, and you obviously never want to overemphasize something if it's not what you did. So as far as your resume, I think I mentioned this earlier in my introduction. It is personal. So this is just best practices, and you can make your resume your own. And I've seen very simple resumes where it's just a page, and it's just text, no lines, nothing. And then there's other resumes that also have a twist with the more creative side of having some boxes and some images there, here and there, and that's okay. Now, again, the main priority is to make sure that you show off your experience. So you don't want to clutter, and you don't want to make it very pretty per se, just to make it pretty. You want to make sure that everything is there, and it's and easy to read first. So, and we talked about the difference between resumes. I'd say, most of the time resumes can be one page, unless, again, you've had extensive experience, maybe two, and I'll say that for the alumni community only. So, as you think about your experience and your resume, so you are applying for a position, look at your experience. What is applicable? Was something 10 years ago and your skills have completely changed? Do you need to put that in your resume? Probably not. So making that judgment call as you're editing your resume every time you apply is going to be the best way for you to make it non-narrative and long, and kind of just rambling on something that maybe it's not even applicable anymore. So making sure that it's just nuts and bolts. Data is also really great. So an example of that is saying, managed a X amount of budget. Maybe that's part of a position, or performed for an audience of 1,000 patrons, right? So making sure that you add some quantitative data in there will help you boost your resume as well. And then templates. As far as using a template maybe you found on Microsoft Word or online, when you Google resume, you know, not the best choice, because when you edit it through, your word processor, it might be very hard to edit it again after you edit it once. So when I say we have templates, those are just examples. We're not going to give you something that you have to kind of fit your experience into something. These are just examples that you can look at to help you kind of just guide and create your own resume. But as far as a horror story, I've seen a resume before where someone used a template, and when it got to me and I opened it on my computer, it was just the template and not their actual resume. So just be very careful, make your own document, and always make it a PDF, please. So that's going to be the best way for you to make sure that your information is correct, and that whoever receives it and looks at it, they're not getting a different document than what you see. These are, very, common things that you want to add to your header, making sure your name, mailing address, that's really depends, right? Are you moving somewhere? Are you moving from LA to New York or vice versa? Maybe you want to put just a city. You don't need to put your mailing address. That's totally up to you. I'd say bare minimum, if you would like, is a city, if that works for you. Obviously, phone number, email, your website is very important. Making sure that to keep it clean on a document, you may not want hyperlinks, but if it is a PDF, you could add those hyperlinks. So do add those if they are applicable. And this is just something, a little tip here. You don't have to write phone number before writing your phone number. It's pretty obvious what it is, and that will save you some word count as well. Make sure your email is professional. IamAwesome@gmail.com is not a professional email. So making sure that, whatever email that maybe you've used for the past, 5 years for maybe where you receive all your coupons from your different stores, maybe making a professional email would be more applicable here. And then for, a performance or a business resume, I think the most common question I always get is, do you have to write a summary or an objective? The short answer for a business resume is no, because you're likely going to be writing a cover letter to supplement your business resume, so you do not have to write this kind of profile or summary section. Now, if you're using it to get a gig and you're a performer, I always suggest writing some kind of profile on your, maybe it's your elevator pitch. It's 1 to 2 sentences about what kind of performer you are, maybe a highlight, and obviously your instrument or instruments that you perform or sing, or you're an actor, you're a dancer. Those are different things that you can do to kind of just, again, help the employer that may be booking you for a gig not guess what kind of styles or what kind of performer you are. Okay. And again, summarizing your strengths and skills in a sentence or two is the best way to create a short and concise objective summary and profile. On your resume, you want to make sure that you obviously include your college experience. You don't need to include high school unless it's applicable to the job that you're, say you're applying to your high school that you went to, and you want to notate that you were an alum of that school. Sure, you could put your high school there, but it's likely that you don't have to at this point. Making sure that you have the right degree. GPA is not required. Scholarships, if you want to highlight those, are totally fine. And then relevant coursework. I think if you're a new alum and you're getting out there trying to get a job in the field, and maybe you don't have a lot of experience, maybe it's just one internship, you maybe want to list some relevant coursework that you took here at Berkeley to kind of show that you have some basic knowledge of some sort of jobs, especially if they're asking specifically if you use Ableton or Logic or anything like that. You want to make sure that you are notating that not only in your skill section, but maybe you can do that in your coursework as well. So in showcasing your work, relevant work gets priority. Okay, so you've probably done more projects, jobs, gigs than you actually think. So always keeping a master doc is helpful when you're writing a resume, especially when you want to get it down to one page. It's better to have all of your information in one place, and then you can kind of edit appropriately. So what can you include? Paid work. If you're a recent alum, you can include your student employment job here, your internships, professional experiences, volunteer work, projects. And what I mean by projects is maybe it was just a short-term recording session that you did, and you were one of the producers. You want to make sure you include that. Just because it was a little side job, maybe it's applicable to the job that you're applying to, so you want to make sure that the employer knows. Quick tip about how to order things. Some folks will think, maybe I'll put the most important experience I have on top and show off that. I think the best way to show your career is to do reverse chronological order. So it should be your most recent experience to the oldest experience, just to show how you've grown, and to show if you've gotten promoted or left one position to go to a management position from an entry-level position. So those are good ways to differentiate that. Go small to big. That's a great tip that I've heard. Job title, job company, and then where it is, and then making sure your dates are consistent and noticeable. Your skills section is probably one of the more important parts of your resume, because this is what an employer is going to be looking at, or a recruiter is going to be looking at, as far as like, are you qualified for this position? So making sure that you have your skills here, and try not to be narrative. Some people like to say, I have had experience working on this X platform. Try to keep it clear, concise. You can have different sections within your skill section, either be technical or not, and you can kind of mix those up however you want. But basically, just make sure the skills that are there are applicable. And sometimes if you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't really know what skills I have, a good way to do that is when you're looking at a job description and they give you qualifications, look at those, and maybe you've hit every kind of bullet point they have on their job description. I would add that to your skill section, right? Whether it be expert in Sibelius, let's just say that, making sure that is included in your resume so that they move you to the top of the pile there. Then just to kind of talk a little bit about, what jobs are appropriate for me as far as when I applied. A lot of jobs now will write at least 2 to 3 years of experience, or as far as needs to have supervisory experience, managing a staff. So as far as different levels for positions, you'll have entry level, which is something that typically recent alum right out of school will work into, and that's more like the coordinator role, right? The coordinator or assistant level positions. And then you have junior level, which is a little higher up, where it could be maybe a manager, but also a coordinator. And then you could get promoted, or looking for a job that's more in the management senior level, where you're overseeing departments or offices, and then of course executive, where you get more of the VP level. So, what considers you as qualified? Read the job description. Do you meet those qualifications as far as what they're asking for? If you only meet 2 out of the 10, probably not. So save yourself some time, always assess. And maybe you look at a job description, you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I am qualified. And there are ways that you can look at a job description and look at your experience, and maybe cater your resume a little bit more to help you kind of get that job. So your resume is, the best way is to always edit your resume every time you apply. And that way it does cater to whatever position or level it is. And then
Andy, I have a really timely question.
Yeah.
Ann Meadows asked us, thank you, Ann, this is a really good question. I'm
Sure.
super grateful you brought this up. Can you go into further detail about the difference between the hard and soft skills?
Sure. Well, let's do this. So I think this would be better. Can you, Donna, if I were to ask you what's your top hard skill and top soft skill, what would you say?
My top hard skill would
Yeah.
be system design, and soft
hmm
skills would definitely be relationship management.
Yeah. So even that with that example, right? Your the hard skills are very technical and obviously very specific to the job. So if a job is asking you, must be proficient in Salesforce, which is a system that's used for admissions or a lot of database management, that's more of the hard skills. Whereas soft skills, you may want to say experience in project management. That's a little more, broad. And not necessarily something that's technical. So making sure that you can differentiate them. I do say soft skills you may not have to always put on a resume because those are very specific to who you are, and you can talk a little more about it in a cover letter. Whereas something as broad as project management experience may not get to the employer the same way as if you explain what kind of projects you've done. But you could do both. You could write it in your resume. You could also put it in your cover letter. Does that explain that enough, Donna? I just want to make sure I answered that question.
I think so.
Okay,
Anne said,
awesome.
I have one more before we move off resumes.
Yeah.
When we're talking about mailing addresses, especially right now where everybody's sort of like in a different place that we like planned that we would be right now, right now with mailing addresses on your resumes, do you think that folks should still put their current addresses on their resumes, even if they would be moving to a different place for that job if they got it? How do you think they navigate that?
Yeah, so I think that's the when I mentioned if you are planning to relocate and you're applying to say you're in Boston, right, and you're going to be moving to LA, I would write maybe Los Angeles, right? Right now, obviously, it's a really weird time because everyone's kind of everywhere, as far as like maybe being based out of Boston or and only being here temporarily. So I think it's up to you to kind of think about, okay, if I want to be in Boston for the next year, I'm probably gonna write Boston. But if I'm in Boston and then once things could get better, maybe I'll write Los Angeles. Just because I do think you don't have to write your apartment number or your street address. That's not really important right now. Obviously, it's just more important of where you are and where you go or where you're going to be. I also think right now, if you are applying for positions right now, a lot may indicate that they are remote. And that is a good question to also ask when you're doing interviews as well. So especially during this pandemic, which I can't foresee it getting better within 6 months, as far as like everyone being able to go back to normal. So in short, it honestly depends. If it's more long-term that you're staying in one location, I'd say stick with that one. If it's short-term and you're thinking about moving somewhere, put the new location.
Yeah, this is sort of like a blend of those hard and soft, like we're talking about skills and how they come into play. I think when we're thinking about mailing addresses, right, we're talking about a relationship that you want to start with this employer, so you don't want them to be surprised. But at the same time, if your location isn't going to impact your ability to get there to the interview, like you want to be strategic and realize that you're starting a relationship with them,
Yep. For sure.
I may add my alumni affairs speak in there.
Were there any other questions before I move out of resumes?
I have one that is more specified where I don't know that we would be the best to advise on it. It's very about hard skills that refer to a specific space. Brandon, if you want to send me an email later, I can connect you with somebody who could answer that in a more specific way because it's about a specific industry and a specific skill set. Guillermo did ask about tasks in last job. So maybe just a little bit about the level of detail when we're going into tasks. I think for me, just to echo what Andy said, and Andy, close this out if I'm going a little off base, but for me, when I look at a resume and the way that I think about it is I want to convey to whoever I'm trying to prove that I'm going to be a success at this job, that I have done things in the past that demonstrate that I am able to do the things that they are calling for in this potential role that I'm applying for. So when you're looking at your tasks, Guillermo, think about how you're talking about what you did at those past jobs and whether or not you're laying out parallels to this new role that you would be coming into, and whether or not you're showing that you have done things that people could have faith in your ability to have success at these new things that you would be doing. Does that sound right, Andy?
Yeah, and I think too, staying high level, right? Obviously with the broad description bullet points, but then also, like you said, parallel. If it's relevant, then yes, you want to get very specific as far as what you did as far as your task, because that will show applicable skills on, right off the bat, instead of someone guessing if you actually have done this. So yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Should I move on to cover letters?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, perfect. So this will be just quick, just to kind of briefly talk about it. But the basics, it should match your resume. You should, it's like salt and pepper, right? They complement each other. And as I said about the resume, the cover letter, if not, this should be even more the case. You should be writing a different cover letter with every position you're applying for. And that's because it's a letter. You're writing to a specific company. You're writing to a specific, maybe industry. And yes, your cover letters may be similar, and there's a lot of similar things that you would say. You may even use one to write the other, but you got to make sure that it is edited so that it does relate to the job, and you're talking to the company that you're applying for, or employer rather. And this is, more personal, and you can be more narrative. Showing personality is okay, but you want to be, I'd say the best way to explain it is this should be your personality, but a little buttoned up. So making sure that you're speaking professionally, but also yourself. And you don't want to come across as someone else when you're writing a cover letter and then you have an interview and it's like a completely different person. So not too long, not too informal, but get your personality across for sure. So I'd say a good cover letter, 3 to 4 paragraphs, no longer. Shed spotlight on the things you want them to see, and talk a little bit more about what you showed on your resume, right? Most relevant to the specific job or experience that you're applying for. Mention who you are, why you're interested in that job specifically, and show your background. And it is a standalone document. What if the hiring manager actually didn't look at the resume yet, and they're reading your cover letter first because they want to kind of hear or read kind of like your personality. So, thinking about if you read your cover letter, would you want to hire yourself in that circumstance? So making sure that that's all applicable. The best way for me to explain a cover letter is actually as a burger. So thinking about it in 3 different parts, right? So you have a hamburger here. If you think about your cover letter, your intro is that top bun. So when anyone that's getting a burger, you open it from the box or the wrapping. If your top bun is kind of smushed or burnt, you're probably going to be a little turned off, and you're going to be like, I don't really want to eat this, or this is not good. So making sure your intro is strong is going to get the reader more interested in you right off the bat. And then your experience, right? This is what changes and not necessarily change in experience, but alters for every single position you apply for. So this is like the condiments, the cheese, or whatever. This is what you'll kind of edit most, I would say, to make sure that it relates to the position you're applying for. And you're not including every single experience that's on your resume if it's not applicable. So making sure that this does change as far as your language, and looking at the job description will help you do that. And then the last part is the conclusion. And without this last part, right, your burger would fall apart. Everything would be a mess. You wouldn't be able to eat it. So this is something that's going to hold your whole burger or cover letter together. So thinking about your conclusion, you're going to need supportive data as far as like doing your homework, researching the company, looking up maybe who the hiring manager could be through LinkedIn, but making sure that you are invested in applying for that company and showing some specifics as to why you want to work there is going to help support your resume a lot more. And then you also want to conclude with, again, that you're hoping to, you know, get a reach out, or that you are available at X, Y, and Z email. Making sure that you have kind of like a closing to your letter will help support that. So I already said these are just breaking down the parts a little bit more, right? So it's the what, where, who, and why. And what are you gonna put in there? State the jobs you're applying for, where, who you heard the job from. Maybe you met someone that was talking about it. You don't have to put that. That's just more if you want to do that. Who are you? And state why you're excited about the position, and look at, like I said, looking at their web pages and doing their research about them, you know, putting that support in there will help. And obviously it will show that you're kind of committed to wanting to work there. Your experience, one paragraph. I put 2 paragraphs because sometimes you do need a little bit more to kind of explain if you have a lot of different experiences. So keep it short and concise. You don't have to talk about everything you did. Save that for the interview if they ask you those questions. Making sure your skills align with job description. A lot of this is, you know, you can tell now that I'm repeating myself a lot because it's all relevant, right? Skills really is the most important thing as far as what you're trying to convey. And then here's what I was talking about as far as soft skills, right? So your soft skills, this is a great time to talk about it, is in the cover letter, because you can really talk about, well, if relationship management, like Donna was saying, is your strong suit, then give me an example, right? What are some ways that when did that happen, or how did that happen? So this is a good time to add those as far as your experience. And I always try to let everyone know that if you want to apply and you feel qualified, be confident about it. And it's okay to say, I feel I am a good candidate for this position because X, right? If you show confidence, then they'll feel confident about wanting to interview you. So showing that confidence is the best way to put your best foot forward. And then as far as your conclusion, like I talked about, short, sweet, you can say thank you and make sure you support your cover letter with the research and investment to the company. So, you know, I'll give another example. If you're looking to work for a you know, producer, look up the artist that the producer has worked with, and maybe talk about why you like that artist, or how that artist has impacted you, and that producer working with that artist is why you want to work with that producer. So making sure that you do your research is gonna help your cover letter stand out a little bit. And before I talk about examples, do we have any questions, Donna, about cover letters specifically?
I don't know if this was specifically about a cover letter,
Okay.
but maybe. Should you state that you're moving to that new city upon employment?
You can definitely say that in a cover letter, yes. That's a great intro, or adding to your intro, right? You're saying, currently I'm based in Boston because of this reason, but am planning to make a transition to LA or wherever. I keep saying Boston and LA because of me and you, Donna.
We're centered. This is where we're at right now. This might not be a cover letter as well, but this is a really good question, and I'm going to expand upon it. So forgive me, Timothy, for hijacking your question and opening it up. But Timothy asked about if you have some incomplete education, would you include that on your resume? Like if you started a grad school, but maybe it wasn't the right fit, or you started some kind of a certification program and decided it wasn't for you, would you include that?
Yeah, so if it's applicable, I think that's a judgment call that you have to make. I have a lot, I've seen resumes where folks have maybe started an MBA, for example, and maybe never finished, but did get some relevant coursework out of the way, and that did kind of set off something for them to get some different jobs. So yeah, the short answer is yes, if it's applicable. And how you want to convey that in your materials is that, you know, as far as a resume, say it is a grad school as an example, you can write that you completed X amount of credits towards a MBA in X, Y, and Z. So you can definitely do that.
Beautiful.
Sure.
Thank you. That's it.
Oh, great. Awesome. So as I kind of wrap this up a little bit, there are a lot of examples, like I mentioned. They're on our website, but the best way to find them is the Berkeley Career Manager. So if you don't have access to Berkeley Career Manager, I say request an alumni account today. And if you have any questions, Alumni Affairs would be happy to help you. Oh, I forgot to edit this part. There are no paper copies. If you're in Boston, we are remote this semester, so there'll be no paper copies. But I have them digitally. Donna has some of them digitally, so we're happy to email them to you after this webinar as well. And this is just specifically if you want to take note. And I can, Donna, what I'll do is I'll send you these slides as well if you want to send it to the group here so that they can refer to this. But this is how you would find them. And what are your next steps? So go ahead and write one or two. And if you've already done it, maybe it's time and you're looking for a job, start editing one. Once you get one going, I think it's you know, easier to kind of get the flow going if you're applying a lot right now. You know, try to get one really good cover letter and resume and have it looked at. You know, I'm happy to look at them. Even Donna, I know you've looked at resumes as well. So, you know, having a second opinion is always the best. Because you want someone else's perspective to kind of, you know, just get a non-biased, you know, impression as well. So, oh, and one thing to mention about cover letters, something that even when I write anything these days, I read it out loud, and I listen to myself. So for a cover letter, read it out loud. And if something sounds off to you, that means it probably reads off. So reading out loud will help. And not necessarily just reading in your head. If you hear yourself saying something that like, oh, that doesn't sound like I'm a, you know, that sounds kind of like I'm a little pompous, or that it doesn't sound clear, I'm not really explaining what I'm trying to say, that should help as far as your editing process as well. So yeah, that's all I have. Again, this is my contact information if you do want to reach out to me and some of our links. But right now, I'm happy to take any general questions about Career Center, about resumes, cover letters, job search that I can answer. But yeah, I think that's all I have, Donna.
I have a question that just popped up.
Sure.
Someone has experienced an algorithmic resume reader that big corporations use when they have large amounts of applications. Do you know about the keywords that things like that look for? Is there any light that you can shed for folks?
Well, the keywords is, you know, I feel like I keep saying the same thing, and I'm sorry for that, but the keywords that, you know, computers are reading are going to be pulled from those job descriptions. They're looking for the most applicable people for a job search, and when it's an algorithm like that, having specific details that are related to the job description will help you. And it's not to say that you copy the job description and write it in your your experience, but making sure, you know, if something says experience with developing a strategic plan for marketing and social media for a large label. I know that was kind of long-winded, but you know, there's a lot of keywords in there, right? Label, it could be develop, or it could be strategy, it could be marketing, social media. So really look at those and be like, okay, is that in my resume? If you're applying for a marketing position and the only thing that says marketing in your resume is the job title, you probably have to be, you know, kind of look at it again. Maybe it's marketing assessment, maybe it's marketing production, maybe it's, you know, all these different things that you could be expanding upon a little more to help with those algorithms. And now I can't predict algorithms, obviously, and I guess that's the point, right? But
we all could.
yeah, I think that my best advice to you is to really read the job description and see how the job description is applicable to your experience.
Perfect. Next question. Can you elaborate on highlighting transferable skills to a career shift? This person is I'm as an educator in a classroom, so with everything going on, they're thinking about switching it up and looking for more remote work.
Yeah, so funny story. I'm actually also, I transitioned from teacher to now career services higher ed professional. And when I was applying for this job back at the conservatory, one of the things I looked at is, okay, as a teacher, what did I do that wasn't necessarily just teaching the lesson? And my transferable skills were, actually project management, right? As an orchestra director, I had to manage a lot of different ensembles. So I talked about that in my cover letter. I talked about that in my resume, kind of talking about what it meant to be as an orchestra director, and how did that transfer to being maybe a coordinator for career services or orientation programs or something random in higher ed, right? So as far as how to showcase your transferable skills, really start to think outside of the box as far as what you would be shifting to. As a teacher, I know from experience as well, you do a lot of admin work, whether it be grading, whether it be writing lesson plans, whether it be even just deciding a concert program, right? So I think emphasizing all those different kind of skills as far as soft skills, but also technical skills. Maybe you've used some, as far as software that is applicable to the job. Really emphasizing those in your materials will help showcase your transferable skills a lot more.
Perfect. It's kind of a similar question, but more about, I think, switching what you do within a specific industry. I have a question about switching roles within the music industry, like from a performer to digital music marketing or something like that. Do you have any advice for folks or any tips and tricks?
Sure. I mean, I will say if you are transitioning to a different industry within the industry, I guess, or pivoting to a different kind of experience, think about yourself as how do you self-promote yourself, right? Do you use social media? Do you have a website? Is your website updated? If you're looking for a digital marketing position, you're gonna want to make sure that your digital assets are up to date, and you can talk about that, right? How do you promote your work? How do you get gigs? So those are things as a performer yourself, you can talk about that. That's your company. That's the U corporation, and I think that's really valuable as a performer, and you can really talk about all the different platforms that you work on, whether it be social media related, or even if you use something like MailChimp as far as sending a newsletter to your constituents or patrons. So thinking about that is the best way to kind of transition from performance to marketing kind of thing.
Beautiful. This is a good question. I think about this a lot. Everything is everywhere, right? So when companies are looking for jobs, sometimes they'll post it on LinkedIn, sometimes it'll be on Indeed, it'll be on their website, it'll be on our portal. So when folks see that, where do you think they should apply through? Is it strategic to do it on the company's website, or is it kind of, who knows which one they're looking at first?
That it's the latter, but I do suggest because sometimes other websites, and I'll admit even ours, right? Sometimes we might have a job description or a job posted that's outdated because it was already filled. So making sure that it's still on the website, and if there's an option to apply on the website, I'd say that's number one. If they're posting it on LinkedIn, I actually think that is a good advantage for you to apply through LinkedIn, because if your LinkedIn profile is edited and up to date and shows off your projects and your skills section, recruiters will be using the LinkedIn platform to kind of look at your materials. So that is, I'd say, a close number two to just applying through the website.
Perfect.
And that's my personal opinion.
Too. Yeah, same. Like I always feel like the closest I can get to like the source is probably bets. Last question I have. So if anybody has any last minute questions, we are getting a little bit to the end of our session. So this will be the last question if I don't get anything, but we have a couple more minutes. Does the Career Center have resources for finding opportunities, internships, jobs in countries outside of the US, like Canada?
So right now we don't, and unfortunately, just because that's not really a market that we work with as far as the industry. So yeah, now it's not to say that you can't talk to an advisor about strategies on how to look for those kind of positions. Working with an advisor is always great for something like that, because you can kind of say, these are my goals. I want to work in either Canada, or maybe I want to move to London. I'm just picking two random places, but we're meeting with an advisor. An advisor can, kind of do some prep work with you to kind of figure out where to look for those opportunities and what opportunities would be transferable or similar to what you're currently doing.
Perfect. Okay. So we're back to LinkedIn. We do talk about LinkedIn a lot. I think, especially as Berkeley, it is such a great resource for us. So this person is asking, how important is LinkedIn for getting jobs? They've heard about recruiters sort of reaching out and finding folks on LinkedIn. So what has been your experience, Andy? Do you think that's a really viable resource for folks? What would be your advice?
Yes, I think LinkedIn is very hot right now. I will say during the pandemic, I've seen an uptick as far as recruiters being very active, because they're sitting at home just like me and you, Donna, and on LinkedIn and able to see kind of updates. So I think using LinkedIn to kind of just help with your search or even apply is very helpful, especially because the Berkeley network is huge as well. So if it's a company that you're applying for, you may or may not, but you're more likely than not maybe can find some kind of connection, whether it's a second or third connection to the job that you're applying for. And LinkedIn's always good too. You can kind of see who the recruiter is, so you can address your cover letter to them, if they're posting on LinkedIn, it's likely that they're going to look at your profile. So some recruiters, I don't know if they're doing more or less active outreach through LinkedIn, but it's all kind of based on, sometimes algorithms, I would say, but then also just making sure that if you are trying to get kind of discovered by a recruiter on LinkedIn, that you do have a full skill section and your experience is very laid out as far as what you've done.
Perfect. Oh, now we're very popular.
Oh, goodness.
Someone's asking for my take on the LinkedIn. I leverage LinkedIn a lot too. Thank you, Akashita. It's more for me, from my lens. Andy and I are kind of two sides of a coin. For me, I teach folks to leverage it for relationship building. We live in the age of data and the age of cyber stalking. So a little light LinkedIn stalking is really helpful for me in this role and just as a person in the community. So when you are looking to get involved in different spaces, if you are making a change in the industry, you never know, just like how Andy said, you never know who you already know, who's connected to those spaces, who could be helpful for you, who could have some feedback for you. And so when new alums come to see me, that's kind of the first thing I show them, is that LinkedIn has a great alumni search tool that we show folks. So if anybody has questions about that, you can just email me. But it's pretty simple. You go to the Berkeley page and then it'll go to people and you can see everybody who has a profile that has Berkeley on it. So it's a really handy resource just to even know where folks you might be already connected to are and what they're working in. So for sure, same.
Yep, and I will say too, it's always good to see, look up the company on LinkedIn as well and see what experience current employees have had, right? You get to kind of see someone else's progression. I find that fascinating sometimes when I'm applying for jobs, like, oh, this person came from this industry and then now is working at this tech company. Okay, so that's always a good resource as well, as far as researching people.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing about LinkedIn, if everything is up to date and everything is sort of in your profile and fleshed out, do you think including a PDF of your actual resume is redundant, Andy, or do you think that's handy to just have that?
No, it's not redundant. I think it's okay. Yep, I'd say go for it, just because a recruiter could pull that as well and add it to their file. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then last minute Oh, I can actually answer this. Formatting differences between a CV and resume. They are a little bit different. They are in the resources that Andy sent me. I believe I already have the resources from the last time we did this. Okay, cool. I don't think there's any updates in the last few months.
Nope.
So I will be sending all of that out. So thank you, Rebecca, for asking. She did ask specifically about pictures. I do sometimes see resumes with photos. What's your take on that, Andy?
I would say, you don't need it unless you're an actor. That kind of resume, right? They're looking for a specific type, and even that typecasting, I have my own personal opinions on all of that. But as far as the picture on a resume, I'd say no. With equal opportunity laws, it has nothing to do with what you look like. It should never have that. If someone asks you for a picture, you should really question as to the authenticity of the employer. So I say no. It's not really something you need to put in there.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're just a few minutes over, so I want to thank everybody for hanging in there with us. We haven't lost very many people, so that makes me feel like this has been good. If you have any feedback or if there are any questions that are lingering, I can always connect you with Andy, but as you can see, his contact info is on the screen. We're both here for you, so if you have any questions or if there's anything that you're wondering about, just go ahead and shoot us an email. If you have any questions or ideas about events that we could do for Alumni Affairs, please feel free to reach out to me as well. My email address is berkeley.edu, not Gmail. I will put it in the chat here for everybody so you have it. But yeah, we're looking forward to doing the rest of these for the week. I am sort of the host on deck for this 2020 virtual boot camp. But then again, it's for everybody, for the alumni community. So if there's anybody that you know of who's not aware of this week of programming, please share it to them. It's on our Facebook page, the Berkeley Alumni page, and then I'll be posting it in the groups that I oversee, and so will my team. So if you are in the alumni Facebook groups, you can check there for the links as well. But I am really looking forward to tomorrow's. I love talking about how our alumni build relationships in the community, because from my perspective, that is like the engine that keeps everything running. I don't know how you feel, Andy, but it seems like relationships and the connections and the way we support each other, that is sort of how folks find the wave that they ride to success. And I'm really excited to talk about it tomorrow.
And please, I am open to meeting with alumni, so please reach out if you want to meet and take advantage of the services.
Beautiful. We're here. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the next one.